Hey gang, Dallas here with Privateer Press. And last time we learned how to paint some trollkin skin tones. Today we're going to go into some detail on some more human faces. So let's get started. To begin with, I'll be using some Midland Flesh to create a base coat for all of his skin. So I'm going to need quite a bit of this because I'm not going to just use this for a base coat. This will also be used for my shadows and some of my highlights. So I'm going to get a lot of that out, ready to be used. So I can close my pot and get to painting. So as usual, just going to go around, give a nice base coat to all of his flesh areas. Just take my time, get a nice even coat paint. Abs in his chest real quick. So it's still pretty blotchy, so I'm going to let this dry and then do a second coat. Just go over all the skin very quickly again, just to even out the blotchiness. And because the way I shadow and highlight doesn't have to be perfectly base coated, because once we start blending some shadows and highlights on there, it's all going to smooth out. And then really quickly, it should be dry. Go ahead and grab any spot that you feel is a little thin. So to start my shadow, I'm going to take some Scorn Red, mix that into some Midland Flesh. And this is going to look really weird at first. A little water, a little Scorn Red. Once we put this on his face, it's going to look all red. Nice rosy pink color. Now it looks like a really weird shade, but we're going to do 2 layers of shading. And then in the end, it'll all look great. But it'll balance out in the end. We'll drop a mixed medium, of course. Make it more translucent. So I'm going to kind of quickly blend this on. You can apply this however you want. See, it's very washy, and I can quickly soften the edges of that. I'm just focusing on the shadow areas. Your primary focus in the shadow areas is under your cheekbones, your eye sockets, these little divoted areas on the sides of the head and ears, underneath the chin and neck, of course. I use a lot of references whenever I paint faces. I like to bring up like famous people faces or just any sort of cool facial reference. Let's do this bicep with the upper part, not very shadowy. Just starts giving that definition and building in that shape and form. As you can see, I'm moving very quickly here. All right, so my rosy pirate here needs some counterbalance to that red. And for that, I'm going to mix some Battle Dress Green into Midland Flesh and do the same thing. I'm just going to shade over top of the Scorn Red. And what this is going to do is going to balance it out and create like a nice brown skin tone. Let's make that a little more green. There we go. Drop a mixing medium. Give that a swizzle. And this is going to go right over top of the Scorn Red, balancing it out. So with this translucent green, you're able to see that red underneath it. And it kind of blends together in your eye, giving you some nice brown skin tone shade. If you look at some facial and some skin references, you'll see that green and reds are pretty prevalent in skin tone. This kind of blends all together, starting to make a cool skin tone. And all I'm doing with that blending is just really pulling it off the top, not getting perfect blends. See how these fingers curl back? I want those pretty shadowed. All right, we're gonna let this guy dry and get ready for the next step. For the next step, I'll be applying some Scorn Red mixed with Battle Dress Green, 50-50. And this is gonna make a nice brown color for deep shadows. So this is just gonna go in all these deep lines, all the deep, deep shadows. I'm just gonna thinly paint those like in the eye sockets, across the brow, under nose, those little angry lines here. Just really creating some deep shadows. Underneath his neck. Definitely between all the fingers. Just kind of think about where some dark lines would be. This part always feels exciting because you really start to see the shape and form of stuff. All right, let's highlight. Now, highlight color is simply a mix 50-50 Midland Flesh and Rim Flesh. And then we'll also do a final highlight of pure Rim Flesh. Let's add our drop of mixing medium to this one. Don't really need it in the Rim Flesh. This final highlight's just a little tiny dots here and there. This is our skin palette, right? So you got your base and your two shades, your third shade, highlight, highlight. You can see how it kind of goes through and you get that warmth and that little bit of green that you see in Caucasian skin. Your darkness and all the way up to your light. Especially these three, how it goes from here to here to here, and this with this transition step. And this is what helps blend that together. We're just gonna highlight our upper surfaces. Fairly broad highlights. And this is a little precise. So take your time, do it right. A little highlight here on his chin. Up here on his forehead. Just let that start blending down. Kind of pulls everything together. Remember, don't rush this part. Just take your time, use the tip of your brush. Get some highlights on there. If you mess up like I did, it's okay. Go back, clean it up, tighten it up in a bit. Mistakes happen. It's all right. It isn't necessarily about making no mistakes, but just fewer mistakes and learning how to fix the ones you do make. And the more you do something, the better. The more practice you get, and the more tricks you learn on how to fix those mistakes. All right, that looks pretty good. And let's put our final highlights on him. This is just that Ren Flesh, just pure Ren Flesh. I'm just gonna really focus in on the forehead and eyebrows, cheekbones, maybe this nose. Put a little dot up here on his forehead. Give that a quick blend out. He's got quite the widow's peak. Maybe this lip a little bit. Get a little bit of highlight. Get a little bit on these fingers. These kind of highlights, these really high kind of final highlights, I don't usually blend these out. Usually just some little touches. Okay, let's take some Thamar Black and frame him up and see how he looks. So this guy is all painted up, cleaned up, and ready to go for the table. But we're gonna kick him up a notch. And for that, we're gonna explore some of the face zones. And the face zones is divided into three. You have the upper zone, which is yellow, the center zone, which is like the brow and the nose, which is red, And the lower zone, which is blue or gray, green, just a darker tone. To create this effect, we're going to put some chin stubble, some 5 o'clock shadow. We're going to put some red ink around his eye area, representing like maybe he's been in a tough and rumble brawl. And we'll put a little yellow up here, very lightly, to represent the sun. But first, let's paint these eyes. So I went in and got the eyes blocked in when we were framing him up. So to paint the eyes, I'm just going to take some mid-off white highlight. I'm going to thin it down. Get rid of most of it on the brush. So I have nice control. Get a good point on my brush. Just use the tip of my brush. Got that mid-off white highlight in there. But as you can see, I left a little bit of black showing around there. Now to paint the pupils on. For that, I'll just take some Thamar black. Once again, thin it down. Get a nice point on the brush. Make sure you have good flow, not too much. Just come in, give him some pupils. I kind of off-center them to look like he's kind of looking over at his next victim. All right, to put our 5 o'clock shadow on there, we're going to take some Bastion Gray, and I've already got some Midland Flush out, and we're going to do 2 layers. So I'm going to mix this over here. This will create a transition color. I'm going to thin that down with a lot of water. You can see how thin that is. I'm going to paint on his lower jaw, cheeks. Put it under his chin here. Just where he would have some stubble going on. By keeping it thin, you can still kind of, gives it that translucency. Very quick, very easy. That's a pretty good 5 o'clock shadow, but this guy's a pirate, and he probably hasn't seen a razor in who knows how long. So to accentuate that, I'm going to take Thornwood Green and my Midland Flush, mix that together, just make a darker color, and just add some more shadow to his stubble. There we go, some water. Keeping it thin. All right, let's use this darker color. I'm just going to put this in the deep recessed lines to show that he's really not seen a razor in a bit. Maybe right underneath his cheekbones. That just kicks that up. So our 5 o'clock shadow represents that lower zone of the face. For the medium zone, where it's red, I'm just going to take some red ink, like one little drop, and a lot of water. Three, 4 drops of water. And then I'm going to glaze this into his brow ridge and around his eyes. Just a nice thin under his eyes, kind of lets him look like he's been up all night fighting and pillaging. Put a little bit of that in his mouth to redden that up. I like this part. I feel like it really gives it character. Okay, let's let that dry. This glaze just shows the red zone, which is where the capillaries are very close to his skin. But also for this pirate, it really makes him look like he's been up all night just being a pirate. All right, finally, for the last zone, so let's take a little yellow ink. I'm going to get rid of a lot of this. I'm just going to put a little bit right up on this forehead. Just a little glaze. Get rid of a lot of it. That very quickly puts a little hint of yellow up on his forehead to show the sunshine. And with that final highlight, our pirate is ready to see some action. That face looks expressive, detailed, and super mean. Next time, we'll go over another textural topic, denim. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe for more videos and check out the links below for more in this series and additional information on the P3 Hobby line. I always feel so pretentious when I do my deep breath thing, but man, it helps. Need my paintbrush. Ready?